Why is staging still so important for home setting in the market in a market like this? What's the difference between decorating a home and then staging it strategically? What design trends are officially out and what has staying power? Okay, Chicago, we are back. And I know every time I say it's one of my favorite people, but today we're bringing back one of my favorite people. We have Paul Kepner with us. Now, who is Paul? Paul is the staging mastermind to the stars in Chicago. That's a big intro. He's also an incredible interior designer, and he has been taking amazing care of Chicago Home Partner clients for years. Paul, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. It's great.
It's always such a pleasure because I get to experience your wealth of knowledge on a regular basis, and I love sharing it with others.
It's great working with you. It's easy, it's simple, and we move so much stuff. It's crazy. Crazy.
He makes Chicago Home Partner listings shine. Okay, I'm going to jump in because I have so many things that I want to get to today with you, and our consumers are going to love every minute in it. We are in the middle of another competitive market. Why is staging still so important for home setting in the market in a market like this?
Okay, first up, in a crazy market like this, you have to put your home in its best light. You have to put it out there so that everyone wants to, come and see it. And when they see it, they want to buy it and they want to live like you. So that's really what it comes down to is getting your house ready is more than just like making sure there's a towel on the towel bar or there aren't shoes by the front door. It's about putting it together so that people walk in, stop and go, wow. And that's what you get with staging.
100%. I always say, right, in this market, people are like, oh, the naysayers, it's going to fly off the market regardless of what I do. You know what? That may be correct. But when we do it our way, it's going to fly off the market for more money. Right?
Every time.
Every time. I always say, as we're talking about where we invest, where we don't invest, in my opinion, making sure that it is presenting in its best light possible is the best you can invest in your home.
Yep. Let them fight over it. I mean, that's the whole thing.
Literally.
Literally, you know, like when you see piles of shoes at the front door and people lined up down the block, there's a reason. You know, they've seen a preview picture, a couple snaps, and then boom, you know, they want to be the first one in line. And then when they see other people in line, it creates this momentum, and then it always looks better in person than it did even in photos. So that's the charm.
Well, and I think you nailed it right there, right? There are so many things in life and in real estate that look better in the photos, right? Sometimes we see the real thing and it's like, oh, I've been on a couple of those dates many, many years ago. But now we bring that into real estate, right? We want them to be enticed by the photo, but enthralled by the picture, right? Come into a lifestyle. And I think that's the important piece of that can really create a better experience. And maybe it's the other house got 2 offers. Maybe we got 6. And I tell you, 6 offers is going to end up with stronger terms every time.
Every time. And I always say it's kind of a little bit like Tinder for real estate. People look at the picture and they'll just, you know, they'll scan through, you know, and see if there's something they like. And then they want to go and see the product themselves. But once they get in and can touch and feel, sit on the sofa, you know, pick up the accessories, that's when people fall in love.
Wait, are we still talking about Tinder?
No, we're talking about real estate.
I'd like to preface Tinder has only been in existence since I've been happily married, so I'm not as understanding of that app.
So it's just pre-shopping, and that's what the nice thing is about the staging photos. You can do, you know, a virtual stage, but when you do it in real time, people get into the space and they feel it, and it feels like home.
One note on that. I do not like virtual staging. My biggest beef is that if you virtually stage, people come in with an idea, an excitement, what they're expecting. And if they come into a tired or a vacant home, the first emotion that they feel is disappointment. It may go on to something different, but the first thing they feel is a disconnect from what they're expecting, and it's usually not in a positive.
Yeah. You don't want to start with a letdown.
No,
you know,
certain.
and that's
not in Tinder or in real estate.
Well, and people are so excited to see it in real time. That's the cool thing that we have going for us when you actually stage and bring in the furniture is that people have this anticipation at the front door of the condo or at the front door of the house. They see it, they've got the curb appeal, they walk up and they're excited to get in there and check it out themselves. What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What is the lighting like? Those are all things that create the senses that get people going to buy your house.
For certain. And kind of this is a continuation in terms of that question, but why do you think pressure from a competitive market actually makes the presentation more important for buyers?
Well, there's a couple things here. I always tell people, I get calls all the time from people who are like, oh, tell me why I should spend the money now, because it'll sell anyway.
And you send them to me.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, first of all, call Amanda and she will take care of you.
She'll tell you why the staging helps.
Exactly. The first thing is you want to make sure that people understand that there is a pressure if there's nothing in the house and it's empty. People walk in and then they nitpick right away. Like, I'm not sure I like that molding or, what's happening over here. When you come into a stage house, you automatically are like, ooh, look at those pillows. Ooh, I like that. I like that table. Or, ooh, I've seen that pattern somewhere online. It connects them.
The eye is distracted from the negatives.
Yes. And all they can think of is where their couch, how their couch would look there. Or maybe, honey, we need a new couch if we buy this house. That type of stuff. Those are the items that people, and then they ask the agent, like, where do these things come from? And, I can always offer where those things came from, but it really makes the house complete. And people are looking at it as an overall.
100%. So you have kind of two hats. Well, you have like 1,000 hats that you wear in your line of work, but you have two main hats, right? You stage homes for sale, but you also have an interior design business.
Yes.
What's the difference between decorating a home and then staging it strategically?
When you're decorating, you are taking someone's specific style into account and how they're going to live in the house. Do they have children? Do they have pets? Are they working from home? Are they working out from home? How are we going to decorate each room so that it's at its most usable? How are we going to decorate functional? How can we make it so that it's mine and put that stamp on it? And so that's what an interior designer does is sometimes an interior designer really wants to leave their stamp on your house and not yours. However,
I think I've seen examples of that before.
A good designer and decorator will help it make it be yours.
Yes.
And just help steer the ship. I always use steer the ship as an analogy because if I put my taste in your house, it's my house, not yours. So I try to make sure we get their personality, their style, their taste. And some people are like, oh, I don't know what my style is, or I don't have a particular idea. But if you show them ideas and then you help with scale, you help with color, you help with what the function is, does the table have drawers in it? These are all questions. Does it need to store stuff or can it just look pretty? Yeah. These are all questions when you're decorating.
Well, and I always say, I use the line all the time. What shows well doesn't always live well. And what lives well doesn't show well.
True.
And that's where sometimes those two things can come at a crossroads.
Well, and for me, the staging really should represent where things go and how great it would be to live there. It's like, everybody wants, the sofa should be across from the TV. Sometimes for it to be photographed well and to be, to get a good walkthrough where people are like oohing and ahhing, maybe the couch needs to be seen first and not seen from the back. So it's all about placement, positioning to make sure that each room has the most bang for its buck. Like I want to walk in, if I'm walking in with grandmama and my husband and my kids and everybody's coming in, we don't want to have to single file through a small opening. You want to make sure the room seems spacious, large, open, welcoming, so that everybody can come in and be like, wow, this is great.
Well, and I know you and I have talked a lot about this because, right, the biggest mistake we tend to see and that we don't tend to make, either with staging or the way somebody sets up a room to show it to sell, is making sure that the TV is across from the couch and vice versa. And oftentimes we say, no, because that doesn't make the room live well. When a buyer is walking through a property, they react to what they see. They don't think about what they see. They don't sit down and go, oh, that TV's in the wrong spot. No, they kind of walk through and they say, oh, there's a couch. Oh, there's a TV. It's got all the things that I need. And they move on to the next room. And I think that's where a big disconnect is for people when they're thinking about it. And we see stagers making this mistake just as often as we see consumers. It lives well. It doesn't show well.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes, people, have a certain idea in mind of where they want things should, to go, or if they already have 100-inch TV, where is the placement on that? I take that into consideration. I'm staging for everyone. Mm-hmm. I'm staging for, the man cave. I'm staging for, for the little girl's room. Like, I'm staging for everyone because everyone's got a hand in this decision. Yeah. And you never know who's going to make that decision. So a little something for everybody as you walk through the house is very important.
For certain. Okay, I want to go into a topic that you and I have talked a lot about, and it's a big deal, but I think a lot of people don't always get it, is that sometimes as a professional, I see my buyers hesitating on homes, even though I really think it's a great fit, because sometimes it's not presented or laid out correctly for them to see. That's a concept that you've brought to me, kind of talking about space functionality. Talk to me a little bit about this.
When you are in a home, you want to make sure that things fit in the right spaces. So like everybody thinks they want a huge sectional sofa, because then everybody can pile on there. Some rooms aren't designed for a sectional sofa. So you have to make sure.
Nor will they ever be.
You have to make sure that you're putting the right scale of furniture in the right spot. And then is a room doing all the heavy lifting that it can? So I've got, the fourth bedroom or what have you. I need an office. I need a workout room. I need, a guest room. Decide how that's possible, to make sure that room is working as hard as it needs to be. If the guest room is being used once or twice a year, then, there's an air.
Don't prioritize the guest
room. There's an air mattress in an aisle at Target near you that will
There's a hotel up the street exactly. That's even better. God bless my mother-in-law, but she appreciated being in the hotel and not in our basement.
Exactly. So you have to decide what the best use of the space is, so that when you live in the home, that you have all of your prayers answered. Yeah. Now you're spending big money. You want to make sure that you're getting exactly what you want. And so that's where staging puts it out there and shows opportunity. Mm-hmm. Like it could be this, it could be that. And sometimes we'll show a couple different uses in a room. One thing that we've changed post pandemic was right before pandemic, like offices were kind of by the wayside. Everyone was working from home, before, but, working from their island, working from the dining room table. They weren't they don't want to be cooped up in an office.
They didn't want to admit that they were working from home.
Well, printing what? You don't need necessarily a desk anymore. And then the pandemic hit, and then everybody had to have a desk. And so now we give people the option, no matter how small the room, no matter where it is in the house, we will include a desk area with a chair, and even if it's a council table set up as a desk, so that when buyers are coming through with their checklist, all the things they want to see, we throw that in there so that even if it's not exactly what you would quantify as a office, it's a place you could sit and work.
Yep.
Or your kid could do their homework there, or grandma could put a puzzle, whatever. It gives you a chance to get that off your checklist so they don't have to come back to Amanda and go, hey, I don't have a place to work.
Right.
It's already covered.
You've shown them how to use the space.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Obviously, I talk to a lot of my sellers and I encourage a lot of staging when the situation is right. How do you think staging a property and walking into a property that is staged helps a buyer to justify spending more?
People always want to be engaged with a property, with, if you go to a party, like it's all about engagement. And so when you walk into a staged home, you feel like it's been elevated. Mm-hmm. I know who this person is by the way they live, and so that gives you an automatic boost in value, because you're looking at it going, wow, they have this, they do that. It can come at expensive terms. Like people may recognize a Restoration Hardware piece of furniture and go, oh, I can live here and go to Restoration Hardware. So that gives them this kind of an elitist type of thing. Not everybody's into that. I always tell people, if you see an expensive mixer on the counter, you go, oh, they have a $500 mixer. Like that means I can live well. and I can have nice things at the same time. So for me, when you're trying to sell or convince someone to stage, I always say, if you're going to sell your home, chances are pretty good you've been looking for one already.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me your experience about that. Like when you go out and look at them, when you see a regular home that someone's living in, maybe not the tidiest, and then going to either, a new construction or a staged property, what's your reaction? And every single time people are like, well, the stage home is so much more, so much more elegant and clean and put together. And I go, and that's a bad thing? No, it's not. It adds value because they automatically think it's going to be more money. And so we do get a lot of folks who are ready to stage because they've seen it and they know that their house isn't going to hold a candle to what they've seen. And that's the best way to move forward is to put someone else's stuff in your house and make it shine like a diamond.
No, for certain. And obviously I talk to a lot of sellers, and in those conversations, it's what do we do? What makes sense? And I'd say there's two different avenues of it, but I always think that bringing a house to life, making it feel turnkey, even if it isn't necessarily turnkey, making it feel turnkey automatically creates value. What do I mean by that? A lot of times I'll walk into a house. Let's say I walk into a house that's somewhere between 15 and 25 years old and is still cosmetically 15 to 25 years old. That house either needs one of two things. It either needs a dramatic investment in surface level cosmetics to elevate the feel, or it needs a lesser investment to elevate the feel with staging.
Yep.
Now, I'm usually the person that says, I think the staging, which is going to be a lesser cost, is going to generate more income because it's going to increase the feel and give that spatial functionality and make a space grow. We're just doing the cosmetics. You did some cosmetics, but people know that they're surface level cosmetics. So I am prone to always spend less, but invest more in the staging than the alternative because I think your return time and time again is better.
Yes, correct. Because that investment, is faster. You can get us in and set up and get the photos and get on the market a lot quicker than having a contractor come out and do those things. And you may not be making the exact right decisions. Sometimes people think, oh, I know what everyone's looking for. And they put on their decorator hat and then, they make some choices that maybe weren't exactly what everyone was looking for. So when you bring in a designer who's a stager, we're going to come in and we're going to do the items that make your place look more today. It's like instant updates. Like even if you're saying 15, 20 years, sometimes a little longer. When you come in and bring in things today, those other things are a little more disguised. And who doesn't like a little, a little like look over here, don't look over here.
Right? Distraction.
Exactly.
Okay. As somebody that walks through hundreds of homes each year, what makes somebody feel at home the moment that they walk in?
Well, I always tell people, most importantly, people step into your home and will feel right away a reaction. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is a light. Is it light and airy? Does it smell new or fresh? Or, do I smell fresh paint? Do I smell cookies? What am I smelling when I come in? Because you go from outdoor into a house or from a hallway into a condo. What am I greeted with right away? And so the first reaction is you want people to feel welcomed, and you want them to be what I call entertained. Like you step in and be like, oh, look at this. Like that's the enthusiasm comes from what you find when that door opens, and it should be rewarding.
Okay, now we're going to bring on some good old-fashioned Midwestern mentality. You and I have had plenty of talks on this, on being value-based. Where in this day and age are you finding your furniture and design deals?
Well, I am a shopper.
You're a glutton to the lifestyle.
Well, I have to stay current. My wonderful agents that I work with who
are
I adore,
demanding.
They want updated.
Yeah.
They want today's trend. Mm-hmm. They want everything to seem like it came right off the shelf and out of the design magazines. So you have to stay on top of, You have to stay on top of trends. Not every unit we work on has to look like it, came torn out of a magazine, but there are things in it that should, because sometimes there's a real traditional and not everyone's really down with the traditional, but we can put some traditional elements in there to make sure that, again, something for everyone. So when I'm shopping for things, I'm trying to pull some new things in, but I also want to make sure that we're touching on other, is a little mid-century modern from a West Elm, in the West Elm outlet. Is there a little restoration hardware from the restoration hardware outlet? There are places out there that have discounts that you can go and find goodies. Now you have to shop them. You may walk in, one or two times and be like, I'm never coming back here again because there's nothing in here that's value for me. And it's tough because, for me as a stager, I'm bringing stuff out and leaving it at people's houses. You don't know what's going on while you're gone. There's open houses. There's hundreds of people, we hope, at open houses. And so you don't know what's happening with your stuff. So you have to be able to get it at a right deal. Otherwise, you'll be out of business.
Yes.
So the whole idea is to be able to get a discount, but to get current, beautiful things. And that is what makes me a super shopper, is because
you're a treasure hunter.
Treasures sometimes mean that they're good for other people, but other people don't like them.
I meant finding the gems.
Yes.
You find the gems even if they're hidden.
Yeah. Well, my sister always used to say that I was a digger because I would dig, looking for that deal, that bargain. I am the captain of getting discounted items like pillows and accessories and mixing them with other things. So when you look at it together, it's all one really elegant, beautiful thing. I mean, we're listing, $600,000, million, $2-3 million homes, and
right next to $150,000 condos.
Exactly. So you have to make sure that you have the right thing that goes in the right home. But some of those things can cross over and no one will be able to tell.
Nobody knows.
No, and that's the beauty.
I think that's a great design tip, is that you don't necessarily need to go splurge and spend on everything, right? If you have a couple key pieces that hopefully are the splurge, but bought at a discount maybe, and then you can kind of smatter with the rest, then you get to very cohesive feel.
Well, and here's your design tip for the day.
Everybody listen up. He's dropping big news here.
I get calls from clients who went ahead and ordered something before we could meet. And so they'll be like, oh, I went to Crate and Barrel. I ordered this bed and it came and it looks nothing like it did in the store. And they want to send it back and they're having a small meltdown. And I said, what you have to understand is you bought one piece out of this room that was staged with the perfect wall color, with, great nightstands, perfect lamps, accessories, bedding, artwork, chair in the corner. Everything was perfectly placed. You bought one piece of that and you expected it to look like it did there. So it's the whole package of stuff and how it's put together. And that's what you get with a designer and with the design. And so something staged is one thing. Having something, designed and staged to sell is another.
So the moral of the story is don't do any design work without calling Paul first. That's what I heard from that.
Exactly.
Right? Or don't do any real estate work without at least consulting with me. It's just let us give a professional voice.
I love it. We are deadly together.
For certain. In our world of HGTV craze, because we're ignoring the rest of the news for the rest of the world.
Yeah, true.
If somebody had $1,000 to invest in updating their home, where do you think they should spend it for the biggest impact?
I always start with lighting every time because nothing dates something faster with lighting. And here's a great example of that. If you're in a high rise and you're trying to sell, you look at the lights that you have in your own unit and then look at the lighting that came with the other 100, 200, 500 units in the building. And I will tell you, a lot of those lights are still original issue. So spending some money on updating your lighting, and it doesn't have to be expensive.
Right.
I mean, you can order lighting from almost anywhere and all you need is an electrician or be handy. Well, maybe
except for Amazon. We're not ordering from Amazon right now. Just so we're clear, nobody's ordering from Amazon right now.
There are so many cool lighting options out there. that you can change the whole look and feel of your room and bring it into today just that fast. Pendants, semi-flush on the ceiling. There even might be a ceiling fan or two out there. I'm going to take it back, but that could update your space.
He didn't say it. He didn't say it.
Well, some people fight me on the fan. If it helps you sleep, blah, 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 blah. But the lighting is the number one choice where you can spend some money and really change the look of your place. And that's one. I've got a couple others. Pedestal sinks are, that ship has sailed. You can't store anything in it. I can't believe they still sell them.
Right.
So I go into like these people's, places and they're like, oh, we're thinking about painting the powder room. And I go, let's change the vent. Well, why? And I'm like, because you've got a basket of toilet paper on the floor.
I'm so guilty of
nothing
that right
is
now.
more unattractive
So guilty.
than a basket of toilet paper.
It's a nice basket, though.
It doesn't matter.
It's a vintage house.
It doesn't matter.
Oh my God.
So these pedestal sinks have got to go. Anything that stands on one leg is fine if it's a flamingo. But
what about me in yoga?
Well, that's temporary. The pedestal sink can be forever. So I would say number one, lighting. Number two, if you've got those pedestal sinks out there, I will be more than happy to send you a link to a couple of real sinks, folks. Let me know.
Okay, so the death of the pedestal sink is official here today, people. We are moving on. Okay, let's talk a little bit of trends for our viewers. What design trends are officially out? Maybe you're going to say the pedestal sink, but maybe something else. And what has staying power? If
you ask a designer right now, they'll tell you that the white kitchen is done. And so everybody is going away from that. I have always been a believer in archival choices. Mm-hmm. Like as a designer, it's nice to get a call from people every 2 years that want to change things and update, because that's good for the wallet. Not good for the scheduling, right. So I always say, let's make a decision that's going to go a little longer.
Classic.
Classic. I like classic. You like classic. Classic to me is a little traditional.
How about timeless?
Okay. All right. Fine.
Like me and Paul.
Well, I always say, let's make something that's going to be good today, tomorrow, and for the next guy. So if you're not living in your place forever, like a 5 or 7 years, whatever, make a decision that we don't have to change it again before you list, make, smart decisions. Don't follow the trend so tight that as soon as it stops, you're like, oh, I've got to, like the farmhouse trend. Our friends from HGTV, and a lovely couple they are, she cornered the market on farm this and farm that. A little bit of that is fine. A little bit of country charm. I'm okay with that. I was country when country wasn't cool. Come on. So that is, but doing the whole thing.
Yep.
No.
That's a commitment.
So a couple little things here and there, then they become rustic and not country. See, there's a difference. Rustic means it's a little weathered and cute. Country means it's been on the farm. So there's a difference there. So I would say the country ship has kind of sailed. We try to stay, right now in wood tones. Like right now, a big, trend for cabinets are the white oak. Like right. Every new construction is white oak floors, white oak cabinets, the white countertops with maybe a little bit of something in the quartz. And then the white oak is just really pretty. It goes well with the gold accents, which, we've been mixing metals for a while. Mm-hmm. The trend of like everything matching isn't really a trend anymore. Mix it up. You can do black with gold. You can, not everything has to be
matchy.
Well, I am guilty sometimes of being matchy. I call it coordination. Mm-hmm. Okay. But when you mix those things together, you get a really nice, feeling of warmth. And then, when you pair them, like if you can see them together, that's one thing. But if they're like, you can do matte finishes of them.
Sure.
And then they're not so like, look at me,
Wait, can you do that again?
Look at me.
Amazing. Okay. So I think kind of the takeaway, right, on that is that it's twofold. We have this ability to not be as cohesive, right? And we can do something like that. But I think we also have to acknowledge that there is an extreme in which you introduce too many textures and colors and metals into, and then it feels like a gigantic explosion that you can't quite wrap your head around, right? So that's as well. On that note, because I know that we're running a little short on time, I actually want to give a little shout out to Paul here in my own thought process of saying, as we discuss all of these staging and design pieces, I want to say, as a real estate professional, not all stagers are created equal. Paul and I are actually just off of an experience in which we went into a brand new construction, right? There were no flaws to distract from, but that I came in and I said, well, I thought the staging by another unnamed company was dreadful. It was taking away from the space versus adding to the space. And I thought that there were a few little pops that really could have made that shine. Insert Paul. I said, Paul, you've got to come help me on this. We came down, he looked at it, he saw my vision, we talked about it, we brainstormed on a few ideas, and we created something without a big investment for the developer and took a sad, tired development and recreated it with life rather than big investment or anything like that. And even though that home was professionally marketed and staged before, not all stagers are created equal. Paul, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. I am, you bring joy to my life. You bring joy to my real estate. Thank you for sharing some of your knowledge with our guests and our viewers. Until next time, Chicago.